Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Yeah.
You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Orange and blue till Mets do us part. Spring training, oh yes, it's the start. City Field gritty till Mets do us part. Hit home runs and knock it out the park. Big Apple till Mets do us part. You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Listen to the show till Mets do us part. John from Brooklyn, Ibby reps NJ. With the other team, I don't care what your friends say. Mets fans, we focus like a sensei. Listen to the podcast Monday, Wednesday. Made a couple bad plays, but we still won. Character, yup, we're gonna build some. Are you gonna check the pod? Is real fun. Just like Mookie, I will, son. So invest with your heart. Orange and blue till Mets do us part. Spring training, oh yes, it's the start. City Field gritty till Mets do us part. Hit home runs and knock it out the park. Big Apple till Mets do us part. You gotta believe and invest with your heart. Listen to the show.
Available now on all streaming platforms. If you love the New York Mets, check out Till Mets Do Us Part. Enough rapping. Let's get to gabbing.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Till Mets Do Us Part, where we are live on YouTube. We are live back on Twitter. We figured that out a couple weeks ago, and it is good to be back on all the platforms where we can reach as many Mets fans as possible, especially when we do a live show after a big, fantastic, huge, monumental win. Of course, we're live about a half an hour late this week because the Mets game came down to the wire until it didn't. Huge win. We're going to talk all about it, but that's why we're joining you guys at about 6 o'clock today instead of our usual time slot, which is 5:30. John Saponaro out in Los Angeles, California. My co-host, Matt Ibanez, holding things down back in New Jersey. Ibby, I mean, it's a good time to ask it after a big Mets win like that. How you doing?
I'm doing good, John. Thank you for asking, as always. And yeah, I said in the chat before you got here to some of the people that got here a little bit early, I said this chat, really experienced a complete turnaround because we were 3 outs away from potentially having a very somber, angry, feelings a little bit different type of talk. And then our leader, by the way, Francisco, you dropped this. Just want to let you know you dropped your crown. Francisco Lindor does what he does. He is the catalyst. He is the MVP. He is our guy. And, puts us ahead, or let's just say ties the game, breaks up the no-hitter. Francisco Alvarez bookends, really drops the hammer stand and closes it out. And it's a fantastic
Not really.
win. Well, not really, but, it's either way. It's a good win, a needed win. And I thought Joe DeMeo put it best. It's like, look, for a majority of that game, wasn't looking good, wasn't looking pretty, but it doesn't matter because at the end of it, they won, and that's all that matters. I put it in the description. 16 games left after today. Tomorrow's an off day. 16 games. You are in the thick of it, Mets fans. This is it. This is all the feels. This is big time. 7 of your next 10 games, I believe, are against the Phils. You got the Braves. You got the Braves ahead at some point. You got the Nats mixed in. You got the Brewers. This is game time. So buckle up. Let's talk all about it.
Yeah, look, I mean, couple things that you could say right now with regards to that game. Look, Ibby, I never put a huge stock into the team that gets no hit. The pitcher or pitchers, if it's a combined no-hitter. But the pitcher, if it's one singular person, let's just use that scenario, obviously deserves kudos for no-hitting a professional baseball team.
Yeah.
The team that is on the receiving end of the no-hitter, I don't put a tremendous amount of stock in it most of the time because we've seen really good teams get no hit. We've seen really bad teams get no hit. We've seen teams get no hit in the first week of the season, the last week of the season, everything in between. Not just talking about the Mets, just across the board. Sometimes a pitcher's got it and the pitcher is just not going to give up a hit. Luck is on the side, whatever, hopes, magic, prayer, witchcraft. A lot of things go into it. So the pitcher deserves the credit, but I'm not sure that a team necessarily deserves to be panned for most no-hitters. That said, when you were in the thick of trying to make a playoff spot and you get no hit in a game where you then lose what would have been 1-0 when your starter goes out and also gives you a great start. I guess what I'm trying to say is all no-hitters from the perspective of the team that is being no-hit are not created equal. This one would have stung for the Mets. Yeah. Would it have ended their season? No. Would it have been frustrating? Would it have changed the tenor of this show? 100%. Mm-hmm. Would it make you feel, man, Manaya's been great. He's been the ace of this team. He pitches his ass off, and you can't scratch across one run against a Blue Jays team that is not that good. Some talent on the team, and that's what I mean. Like, every once in a while, like, they're going to get their wins here and there. They're not the worst, but they're not that good. They shouldn't be holding down and winning a series from the Mets when the Mets are trying to make the playoffs. So normally I don't put a tremendous amount of stake in it, but breaking up this no-hitter was huge. And then you see the way it changed the entire tenor of the inning and then of the game. Obviously, the Mets wind up putting the hammer down and sort of winning in a laugher, essentially. And brings me to my second point, which is the second biggest point of the game. We've talked a lot over the last 2 weeks about Francisco Lindor needing to make his case to be the MVP. And you said last week, very astutely, he's in the conversation. He's not the MVP right now. He's got to finish strong. He has to continue to do what he's been doing, which is crazy because to that point, he had been electric for months. Yeah. Since then, he's been a little down. He's opposite of what you said last week on this show. He cooled off a bit. And I remember watching the game, it is 2 nights ago or whatever it was, and I was like, I thought back to your comment, and I was like, man, he might be like, this could be a week where Lindor's losing the MVP right in front of our eyes. Yeah. 0-2, down 1, 9th inning, home run, tie the game, put himself right back in the conversation. That is an MVP moment for Lindor.
Absolutely. You think about, we mentioned that last week about how, needing those moments as well. Obviously, you have to have the numbers. And when we're talking about Ohtani and the stuff that he's doing, he's going to get 50-50. So the numbers have to be there at the end, too. So he's going to have to heat up a little bit. But people, whether it's voters or fans alike, whatever it is, these types of moments, they do stick out. And, it's crazy because, I was just talking with some friends in my own group chat and big time baseball fans, Mets fans. And it's like, this is more so a shot at MLB, but it's like on 9/11, the Mets are playing a 3:00 game in Toronto. Like, could you imagine if Francisco Lindor did this at Citi Field at night? Like something like it's still a huge moment, but that's just me being, angry with MLB when it comes to scheduling and not knowing what to do.
If I could just interrupt you for 1 second with that, it's funny to me. And obviously, we're all, New Yorkers, tri-state area people who were, incomprehensibly shaped by what happened, on September 11th, all those years ago. And, it's easy to just kind of forget about it, like on a day like today, because it's a Wednesday. Like you said, like there's not a lot of, wasn't the 20th anniversary on the nose. So there's not a lot of fanfare. It's not like the Jets playing on Monday Night Football and stuff. So it's easy sometimes to get lost in the shuffle. I mean, like, honestly, maybe I woke up this morning and I forgot it was 9/11 for like hours today. I just had a lot of stuff to do. I'm running around. And then I looked at my phone and I saw like the date and I was like, oh my God, like, wow. But I say that, to just give the reverence to the moment. To your point, I do find it almost laughable as much as sports tries to inject patriotism into the sport, whether or not it's appropriate, inappropriate, whether or not they shouldn't. I'm not saying that. I just think it's funny because baseball, football, certainly, they go out of their way to have these moments. And then they're like, oh, 9/11 this year, Mets, Toronto, day game. You know what I mean? Like it's
in
just
Toronto.
In Toronto. Like it's just a very strange choice to make if you're a schedule maker, if you're a, like, it's just, again, whether you think it's too much, too little, not enough, it's pandering, it's not pandering, it's too much Americana, they like whatever, wherever you lie on it, it's like they go so hard in the paint sometimes, and then they're like, they fumble what could have been, it was a huge moment for the Mets. It could have been an even bigger moment. Like the comments are pouring in. Like, Stephanie, she's not the only one who's saying it. It's Piazza Part 2. It could, Lindor replicated Piazza's shot. So it's just strange that when some instances they go so hard to make sure that they're getting it out there, and in other instances they're just like, oh, I mean, I guess they'll just play in Toronto. 3:00.
It's always been I think baseball has always had an issue when it comes to schedule, because it's not just this. That I can talk about how, like, there's been some July 4ths where there's like no games on until like 6:00, or it's like one game on until, one game on at 1, nothing on in the afternoon. And you're like, what the hell's going on here? It's like all these opportunities that you have to put your product out there when people are looking for, and then you just choose, maybe not here. So it's like Mets, Toronto, in Toronto. So it's like, But either way, it's a huge homer to bring it all back. And hopefully this can kickstart him back yet again to, for lesser, no other way I can put it, like for him to carry this team. And we're going to talk about him. We're going to talk about Vientos. And we're also going to hit on, the guys that are not really there right now that this team truly needs, no matter what. Myself, John, you guys, we all believe in this team, and we're ready to go to battle over these next 16 games. But we also have to be honest with ourselves. If this team really wants to do damage over the next 16 to get where they want to get to, some of these bats, and the names we're going to mention, they have to wake up.
Yeah. And I'm going to leave, just with respect to, today and the reverence for it. We're going to talk mostly about the Mets. We're going to leave the 9/11 stuff, here. But this is a good comment from Douglas that kind of encapsulates what I was trying to say, which was the Mets had to fight to wear the first responder hats too.
Yeah.
They've worn them now for the last 4 years, because there's a lot of comments now since then, like, oh, again today. No. In the last 4 years, the Mets have worn the first responder hats on September 11th. But prior to that, they had to fight tooth and nail to make it happen. And then to Stephanie's point, they had to fight the remainder of the 2001 season to wear them. And that's what I mean with regards to the MLB just being tone deaf and all these leagues being tone deaf. It's not about a show of, again, whether you agree with doing it or don't agree with doing it, or you think it's too much or too little, whatever the case may be, it's clear that MLB, NFL, all these entities, they only look at it from a perspective of marketing and can we make money doing it? Because, last year, Monday Night Football's on September 11th, and you get the Jets in the game, and you get Aaron Rodgers running out with the flag, and you get the flyover, and you get all this stuff that you could go, look how American we are. And then fast forward 1 year, and it's like, it's a Wednesday, put the Mets in Toronto. I know it's a different league, but that's my point. My point is, and that's why I brought up Douglas's comment, where it's just like why if a team comes to you and they're like, hey, the world at large, but especially the city in which it took place in, was irreparably damaged and shaped forever. We would like to wear these hats, and the league's like, oh, I don't know if you can. But hey, real quick, let's do a Players Weekend where we make you wear the ugliest, stupidest jerseys that anyone's ever seen with nicknames on the back. Is that cool? Because somebody could buy that. But the thing is, like, you can only buy like one of those FDNY hats at like JFK or like, some stand on Canal Street. So like, we can't really monetize that as the MLB. Like, it's just like, it's so see-through, and it's so it's the opposite of having a backbone. I know you got sponsors, you got New Era, and that they sorted it out. They gave them New Era caps and because they got to make their money. But it's just like, dude, like, you're losing the message. You're losing the message completely. So that was my point. And yes, it comes down to this, Stephanie. Thank you for summing it up more succinctly than I could. MLB's just tone deaf. But again, I keep mentioning NFL. It's the same thing. Like, all the leagues only care about their money. That's all they care about. And I'm not naive. I don't think we live in a a flawless utopia where everything is beautiful and sunshine and rainbows. I know that people want money, but like, this is not the time to figure that. Like, oh well, you can't wear those hats until we get new era involved. You can't wear hats that say NYPD or FDNY. Like, oh my God, it's gross. It's so gross. That's why I'm more in the camp of just don't do it. Like, don't make a big deal, because I see through what they're doing, and it's not for caring. It's for what can we sell and how can we sell this? But anyway, I digress. You got to talk about it because it is 9/11. But I mean, it was, aside from the FUBAR of the MLB, like it was a massive moment, and it was very reminiscent of Piazza's moment, in terms of the singular baseball game, not in terms of the meaning,
right?
But in terms of winning a baseball game, that's a big moment, man. And Lindor, Douglas said it earlier. Fair or not, like it or not, Lindor has to play out of his mind to close out the regular season to be the MVP. I think that's absolutely true, but this certainly puts him closer, not further away.
Absolutely. And like I said, hopefully that, this homer can kickstart him to doing something that's similar or at least on par to what he was doing, which again was a ridiculous pace. He wasn't always going to do that. I think last night I heard this stat, he was like 2 for his last 14 or whatever. So he went to this, he's been in this small little slump, but again, hopefully this can motivate him to move forward, and not only him helping the offense, which desperately needs him, but hopefully the others can, do what they need to do and supplement and help him. It was great to see Francisco Alvarez hit a huge homer today as the hammer to drop down for this win. But just seeing him being able to lift the ball and hit a home run, which there have been was that the only, or the Lindor and Alvarez homers, were those the only 2 homers of the series? Did anyone else? I don't know if anyone else hit a homer. I'm blanking right now, but
I think they were. But I say this with love. Armand's gonna have the answer.
Armand's gonna
dialed in. So thank you in advance.
No, but just being able to see that, and hopefully that can be something for him to build off of. But I mean, I don't know if you want to get into it now or not, but like, we know the 2 names that we have to talk about when it comes to this offense and getting proper.
Yeah, let's talk about it now. I am going to bring up. I keep saying I'm going to move on from this, but it's just people keep making good comments to the contrary. Stephanie saying, if FDNY can paint my friend's face on the side of one of their trucks for 9/11 when he was one of the 343, MLB cannot be douches and about the Mets wearing first responder hats. Yeah, that's kind of what it comes down to.
It's one day.
It's one day.
It's one day.
To take it off of 9/11 and run another comp, I remember when Pat Tillman passed away, of course, and there's a lot of things we found out after the fact with the death of Pat Tillman, but the Arizona Cardinals obviously wore his number on the back of their helmet, just a little black circle with his number for the rest of the season, or for that upcoming season, whatever it was. And Jake Plummer, remember the quarterback, Jake the Snake Plummer?
Snake, yeah.
He was no longer on the Arizona Cardinals. At that point, he was on the Denver Broncos, but he had come up with Pat Tillman, and he wanted to wear it on his helmet, and the NFL said no. It was like his best friend. Like, he was like, this guy's my team. He was my teammate. Like, and they're like, yeah, but that's not part of your uniform. And he was like, well, I guess I'll find another way to honor him. And I think he put something on like the bottom of his cleats or like inside of his shoes, something that was hidden. And it's like, you guys they're all disgusting. They're all dumb. It's ridiculous. But that's it. Final thing, pinning it. No more 9/11 talk for the sake of what, the Mets and baseball. But I mean, look, it's Brandon Nimmo and it's Pete Alonso. You know how much I've defended Pete Alonso, or at least tried to. You know that even in defending him, I have acknowledged that he's not been great. We've acknowledged that he's not been great. You and I have, I think, little differing views on where the Mets could and should and how they should go into the future with Alonso, but that's a future conversation. That is for after the next 16 games, and hopefully well beyond that. So right now, the Mets need someone who is not named Francisco Lindor or Mark Vientos to be consistent. JD Martinez, he's pitched in here and there. Looks like Harrison Bader came out of his slump a little bit. He hit a big home run in the last series. Marte's been mostly good since he's gotten back. They're going to need more from Nimmo and Alonso and probably Francisco Alvarez and definitely JD Martinez. But the two biggest culprits right now have been almost non-existent. Shout out to Pete for getting that big sac fly that gave the Mets the lead. But other than that, I mean, they've been bad. They need to be better. The Mets aren't going to win in the playoffs if they make it to the playoffs without those two guys.
No, you have to have them. And, Douglas is saying here, like when Iglesias plays, he's pretty consistent. It's like I appreciate when we're getting contributions and positive efforts from the Iglesias of the world, the Jesse Winkers of the world since he's come here. He's been a pretty semi-regular player. But, beyond Lindor and Vientos, I look directly at Nimmo and Alonso, and I think back to, a comment that Ant Rivera, somebody Shay mentioned in our group chat, might have been last night. And he's like, who would have thought that, you look at this lineup and they're in the midst of a playoff hunt trying to make it into October, and you would say that, the crutch of the lineup, the one that's really like dragging along, is Nimmo and Alonso. And I have some numbers in front of me right here. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to create a slide or anything like that or a graphic, but I know over the totality of the second half, Brendan Nimmo has been bad. So I just wanted to keep things more current, and I pulled up his numbers for the last, we'll call it the last month, okay, last 4 weeks or so, almost 4 weeks. He's got 82 plate appearances. He's only got 16 hits, 3 doubles, 1 homer, 8 runs, 5 RBIs, 2 steals. It's great that he's only striking out at 14% of the time, but, he's batting 222. His EVs are around 90. His weighted runs created plus 79. 79, guys. That's not good. We all know the average is 100, so he's below the average. 79, not good. Pete Alonso, okay? Pete, it's crazy because sometimes you hear some of the numbers, and I had got a little bit further with Pete. I had looked at one point over his last month and a half, and the numbers are a little bit better. But over the last month, 91 plate appearances, only 17 hits, 3 doubles, only 4 homers, 12 runs, 10 RBIs. He's striking out 35% of the time. 35% of the time, a little bit above his norm, okay? They're not throwing him fastballs. He's being susceptible to a lot of breaking stuff, and he's swinging through everything. His weighted runs created plus is 109, okay? So it's a little bit above average. But, again, it's crazy because when you look at Pete's numbers, and maybe it's because we're spoiled a little bit, but when you look at his numbers and you're kind of like, these aren't bad numbers. Like when you look at them, but you're like, these aren't the numbers we're used to. We still haven't gotten what we've been asking for weeks upon weeks upon weeks. Him coming out and carrying still has yet to happen. We can keep hoping that it can because this team is still in it. Maybe it will. But for now, I don't know if you feel the same, but the only trust I have until proven otherwise is in the two guys that we mentioned before. It's Francisco Lindor and it's Mark Vientos, which is wild to say because it's wild to say that the Robin to Francisco Lindor's Batman ended up being Mark Vientos.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. We're fortunate because where would we be without him?
Exactly, yes.
Generally speaking, I do tend to agree with you. There are guys that I have a bit more faith in, not the way that I have faith in the two that you mentioned, Lindor and Vientos, but I have faith that they are going to figure it out, right? Or even if they don't fully figure it out, that they will be productive. I think Keith mentioned it on the broadcast last night with JD Martinez. The power's not been there. The consistency after that one really big hot streak that really got the Mets restarted this season has been up and down. But you just have confidence, though, that Martinez is going to turn in. He's not at his best season, but he's going to turn in a good at bat in the clutch. And, if he comes up with 2 runners on and 2 outs, maybe it's not a foregone conclusion that he gets those runs in, but you feel like he could. You feel like he's right there. At any given moment it could turn. Whereas, with somebody like Alonso right now, I keep preaching, the hot streak might be get hot, help yourself, help the Mets. Get hot, help yourself, help the Mets. But, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow may never come. So, I do feel a sliding scale of confidence towards some of the other players. I like the at-bats Marte has more often than not. You know what I mean? Like there are certain guys, like Douglas said, Iglesias, the comment you pulled up, Iglesias has been good when he's been in there. Like, you have confidence in him being able to do some stuff. But some of the big guys need to start to contribute in a major way. I want to jump back into the comments here for a few of them. These are from before. Charlie saying, we oldies remember Bob Moose pitched for the Pirates in 1969, no-hit the Mets later in September. We know how that season ended. Means nothing, but I thought it was worth a mention. It's a good point. Also, the 2015 Mets that went to the World Series got no-hit twice. God. They got hit in June, and they got hit in the second to last game of the season, once by the immortal Chris Heston and the other actually immortal Max Scherzer. So, and in doing that, look, they weren't even they were bad games across the board. I think Heston hit 3 batters I was looking at, and that's the only thing that kept him away from a perfect game. And Scherzer was even better. Scherzer was a throwing error away from a perfect game, and he tied Nolan Ryan's record for most strikeouts in a no-hitter with 17. So, he was on an absolute tear, and that team went to the World Series, and that was literally right before the season ended. And to that end, speaking of strikeouts, Armand said, Francis only had 1 strikeout. The last time a team was no-hit while only striking out once, the 1970 Oakland A's against the California Angels. So, I mean, when you look at it's not to say, Ibby, that the no-hitter was unlikely, but I did not know that stat ahead of time.
Right.
In today's baseball, the way baseball is contested now, with the high likelihood of 3 true outcomes,
right,
pretty unlikely that you would get 1 strikeout and make it all the way through the game with the no-hitter.
It's wild.
And he didn't, because what broke up the no-hitter? One of those three
true outcomes.
So I think it's pretty interesting the way that has shaken out. Stephanie saying, look, Lindor took Vientos under his wing over the winter, so maybe not such a surprise. I mean, look, Ibby, certainly great leadership, and certainly trying to get the most out of Vientos,
especially defensively.
Yes, of course. And obviously it's been noted a million times, the Beltran stuff, Beltran and Bryce Harper even saying, dude, what are you doing? Just hit the ball hard. You got tons of power.
Stop swinging so hard. Yeah.
So it's not a surprise to me that they have Lindor and Vientos, the relationship of maybe a Batman and Robin, right? Like a student and a teacher, the elder statesman and the new hero and that kind of thing. The surprise is just how good Vientos has been.
Yes.
The surprise is him not
the sense of belonging. Like he has that presence already.
Yes.
He steps to the dish and you're like, all right, let's go. Which I can admit, I didn't think I was going to be saying that this year. Like Vientos steps to the plate. I'm like, I feel really good. Like you have your ups and downs with some guys hot, but I didn't expect it to be this good.
I'm gonna make a nerdier reference that might lose some people and just try to continue the analogy of Batman and Robin. Yeah. It's like Lindor is Batman and Vientos is Nightwing. You know what I mean? Like it's maybe a more mainstream thing would be like, Lindor is Superman and Vientos has been Batman. It's not like this necessarily lesser. Like the tutelage relationship, the master and apprentice relationship is very similar to that of like Batman and Robin. But Vientos has been so good that he's been better than Lindor's sidekick. Yes. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
That's why I use Nightwing. That's why I use Superman and Batman. Like he has been the perfect second player. He has been the complement, not like, oh yeah, Lindor's been going off, but also Vientos is here, and like what he's doing is nice.
Right.
They've been like the two people literally carrying the team on their backs.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the main thing why I liked the Batman and Robin so much was also because it's like the two of them work hand in hand to protect Gotham, to protect the ones that they're trying to, again, take care of. So these two are doing everything in their power to carry this team as far as they can. It's just wild because, again, there are other players on this roster that should be providing the same level of output, and they're not. And I love this team. I want this team to go far, but I've said it before. I'll say it again. Like, this offense needs to click. I think Rosie said it in the comments just before, saying how when this offense disappears, it disappears. And that's a problem. And we've talked about that the entire year. Like, this team does go on its spurts of going cold, but they've been spoiled, or not spoiled, but like they've been covered up, if you will, because Lindor has stayed as hot as he has, because Vientos has stepped up the way that he has. Because, like you just said, if you think about it, if Vientos doesn't do what he's doing and Nimmo slumps the way he has in the second half, and Pete is, in the second half or overall for the season as he has been, this team isn't where it's supposed to be. Not even close.
Not even close.
Those two working hand in hand to protect Gotham, in a sense, that's why I like the relationship, and why I think that if it wasn't for them, this team wouldn't be where they are. Yes, shout out to the pitching as well, but you got to score runs too, and these two are providing that. But we need, I just read those numbers to you, Nimmo, Alonso. I don't know if we'll get it from Alonso. I am a little worried about Nimmo, because I'm always at the point with him where it's like, this is Brandon. He's going to be okay. Like, he's going to figure it out. But it's gone on longer than I thought it would. Like, to this point, it's like three weeks now, a month longer than I thought this was going to be. And it's just like, man, if he could just get going. I'm not saying he's got to be as hot as he was in the first half. I would love it. We all would. But I'm not saying he's got to get that hot. But, 79 weighted runs created plus, not putting the ball over the fence like he had been. Like, I need you to wake up, Brandon. I need something. Maybe he's battling an injury. Maybe he's still a little banged up because he has had his little things here and there. Maybe he's fighting something, and we'll find out after the fact. But, Brandon, I need you. I need you back, buddy. I need you.
Douglas saying Vientos has been around long enough for pitchers to adjust to him, and he's still producing, which is a really good point.
Great point.
Very, very good point. This is not a small sample size anymore.
No,
he's been up here. He's been in the show. He's been doing his thing. With all of the advanced statistics, and people make fun of the iPads and the technology and all that stuff. And sometimes it's warranted, sometimes it's not. I think it gets unnecessary hate. The bottom line is the way modern technology helps baseball players and coaches adjust. The adjustment can happen quickly, and he has been able to have a very productive season. Correct. He has had a very productive season, which means they're adjusting to him. He's adjusting back. They're adjusting to him. He's adjusting back. And that's how you become a really good Major League Baseball player. And so far 100%. He's done it. 100%. This is a good one, going back to the Martinez conversation from Yamid, saying Martinez has been bad. He should be around 25 to 30 home runs, not 14. I don't disagree. I think his contributions, Ibby, have been a little less tangible in some instances and a little bit more presence-based. But he's not been bad, but I did expect more.
I expected a little bit more, yeah.
And I would have been happier even with the average being down and the home runs being closer to 25. Forget about 30. Just because he's done it. He did it as recently as last year. So I don't think he's been bad. I think his presence has helped the Mets.
Absolutely.
But he has not been as good as I thought he would be in a very literal sense, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And I think that we expect a little bit more, but we also have to realize that it gets a little bit longer in the tooth, a little bit older. Sometimes things are sapped a little bit more, but for what he's given, we appreciate it, of course. And of course, the presence, really, that's gone a long way with helping Lindor. When we think back to the meeting and how it changed the season, we think back to what it's done for Vientos, the presence there, the talking and the coaching him up all the way back in spring training since the day that he signed, literally taking a job from someone, but then in turn, motivating Mark Vientos to be what he's become. So there's a lot of good that stems in the overall picture, I should say, from JD Martinez as opposed to just the stat line. But yeah, I would admit that I thought he would get to at least 20 homers this year when we signed him. Yeah, so it's a little bit below the average of where I thought he would be.
Yeah, and barring an extreme tear, which I
Right.
suppose is possible, with some games in Citizen Bank Ballpark and, the games with Milwaukee, it's possible that he could hit 6 home runs in 16 games. I don't think it's likely. It's possible. But even that would put him lower than what you expected, right? Because if he does that, that would get him to just 20. And like I said, I expected at least 25. I saw you just start this comment. I was going to bring it up from Brad. Vientos has been what was expected of Alonso. And, Ibby, it's funny because there's a way in which that's a very fair comment. And if you go back to the offseason, I said, hey, you can't expect Vientos to just replace Alonso. Vientos has a ton of power potential. I've always liked his swing and what he brought in terms of power, but let me see him do it first. Now, listen, to his credit, he's hit a ton of home runs, a ton of big home runs. The power has been there. I still stand by the fact that, look, if Pete's going to hit 30 home runs and not 45 plus, yes, Vientos can do a pretty good job. This version of Vientos can do a good job of replacing him. But he still has not hit 40 or 45. And even if he played a full season, he would not be close to 40 or 45. But where I think this is super spot on from Brad is that Vientos has given us the big time home runs in the big time spots. And that's what we expected of Alonso.
Yes, 100%. And because when you look at the overall numbers and just the stats in general, Pete's numbers are better. He has more in that sense. But yes, what he's provided from an aura standpoint, big moment standpoint, driving in runners and scoring position standpoint, things like that. Yes, Vientos is doing what Alonso should be doing. And I'm fine with that. We're all fine with that because he's doing a great job. That it's just that you wish Pete was also doing it. So then you have two of those guys, because we've been screaming for the last handful of years, man, wouldn't it be cool if Pete had another guy like him behind him or in front of him? Wouldn't that be awesome? And it's well, here you go. You had one the entire time. He's doing it. Here you go, Pete. And it's I don't know if I'm feeling it. Come on.
It's funny, Ibby. I want to bring this up. And again, I'm going to acknowledge that it's not today with 16 games left is not the perfect time to talk about this because it's too much of a look ahead, but I'm going to bring it up anyway because we're kind of dancing around it. The Mets are, regardless of what happens here in the next 16 games, make the playoffs, don't make the playoffs, first, second, or third wild card, hell, division win, whatever.
You never know.
World Series out in the first round, regardless of whatever happens here. The Mets are oddly set up for success despite all of the key pieces that contributed to this year leaving the team on short-term deals as compared to what happened in 2022. And the reason why I bring that up is because 2022, Jake's a free agent. Diaz is a free agent. Nimmo's a free agent. And you're sitting there and you're going, man, we just won over 100 games. I know the playoffs didn't go the way we want to go, but we have no choice. We got to try to bring back Jake. Oh, we can't bring back Jake. Let's go get Verlander, throw a bunch of money at him. Oh, we have to sign Brandon Nimmo. And I'm not saying that signing Brandon Nimmo or Diaz were bad deals. I'm not saying that. But they had to. You cannot sell to a fan base off of 101 wins. Oh, yeah, that guy who made himself into the best center fielder in baseball that we drafted, we're going to let him walk. Oh, that guy who's the best pitcher in the sport, we're going to let him walk. Oh, the guy who's become the best closer in baseball, we're going to let him walk. Don't worry, though, guys. We got you. You can't spin that.
No.
And that's why they had to do what they had to do, and they had to go get Verlander, and they had to, get all these deals. And it's all old news to all of us. But what I'm looking at now is a tremendous amount of money coming off the books and guys who have made major contributions, but no guy in particular that either one needs to be here, like, oh my goodness, how could you let that player go kind of person. And two, nobody that has been so transformative that they've become irreplaceable. And what I mean is, like, the closest thing would be maybe Sean Manaea for the year that he's had.
Yeah.
But, you know, Sean Manaea is going to be in his mid-30s. He's also not going to require a contract like what you had to pay Verlander to get him here. So it's like they're both not irreplaceable and also not like, oh man, you've got to make him the highest paid left fielder in the game and the highest paid closer, and you have to go give Verlander a record deal. So, like, regardless of what happens with the rest of this season, and I hope this goes on and on and on and on until we win the World Series, the Mets are going to come out of this season with an eye on next season, with a lot of moves that they can make, not make. They can call players up because they actually have a farm system. They can use some of those players in the farm to go out and trade and acquire pieces. And they are going to have so much money coming off of the books that going out and, pipe dream or not, whether you believe it's possible or not, getting Juan Soto is realistic.
It is.
Now, the Yankees play a role in that, of course, but getting Juan Soto, Ibby, and someone else, pick your player, Pete, Santander, Corbin Burns, it's all possible because of that. And so, again, I'll give you the final thought on it as we head into the break, because it's not the best time to talk about it with the Mets trying to make the playoffs right now. Yeah. And as we speak this moment in a playoff position. But when you look at, like, what's the difference between David Stearns and Billy Epler, you're looking at it right now, because this is actually sustainable. Whereas before, I'm not sure that it was. You know what I mean?
And also, you have legitimate depth. That is where Billy Epler failed miserably, and that's why Mets fans should always trust David Stearns, because we noticed it. And I said to you, I wasn't going to grade David Stearns until the deadline, because at that point I said, we'll find out if this man has the guts or has the balls, whatever you want to use, to do what Billy Epler wouldn't, and that was cut ties with things, admit defeat, know that tried something, didn't work, I'm going to try something new. He's been doing that all year. All year he's been doing it, and he's had good depth throughout the system. He's moved guys along quickly to find out what he has and refilling in other spots. That's why this team feels different. That's why this team, 2024, didn't go the way of 2023. That's why in the beginning we were worried that it might go that way, but the constant turnover, the constant changes, knowing and having a pulse of the team is why this team is where it is, and fighting, like David Stearns said from day one, it was always going to be a playoff caliber type of team. So yes, I think that this team overall is a different monster, even though it's not as flashy as that 2022 team, like by name standard. But you don't need flash. You need substance. And I think David Stearns has put a lot of that. And a lot of the guys that he signed ended up being proper, which is why, as we always say, trust in David Stearns.
Trust in David Stearns. Let's leave it right there. Head into the break for everybody who's watching live. And there are quite a few of you across both platforms. That is Twitter and YouTube. We've got 255 faces, eyes watching us do our thing. We appreciate each and every single one of you. As somebody else jumps in, 256. Don't want you to feel left out. We appreciate you as well. Imagine I just kept doing that. 257. We appreciate you, and we appreciate you. I'm not going to do that, I promise. No, we appreciate everybody who is tuning in live. We usually do this show, if this is your first time watching us, on Wednesdays at 5:30 for about an hour to an hour and a half. We started a half an hour late here today because the Mets game wrapped up later than we thought it would, and it kind of touched our start time. Especially the way that game was going, we didn't want to interrupt. You know, if the Mets were winning 14-0, maybe we would have started on time. Or if the Mets were losing 14-0, maybe we start on time. But, you know, a 1-1 game or 1-0 game, no hitter that then gets tied, and then the Mets go on a huge run. You got to let that game finish out before you start a show, just so you know exactly what is going to be happening. So we'll head into the break here. If you are watching live for the first time and you're like, I don't want to sit through a break, don't worry. It is just a quick 30-second reset. Plus, we've got some ads that we have to put in to the audio version of this show. So while you're here, if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and make sure you hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so you'll be automatically entered to win that Edwin Diaz autographed baseball. We'll talk about that, how that's going to happen when we come out of the break. But sit tight. We will be right back with more Til Mets Do Us Part, courtesy of the Brella Sports Network. Yo, just like that, we are back with Til Mets Do Us Part, live on YouTube, live on Twitter. And like I said, going into the break, we do this show each and every single week. We do an hour. Most recently, we've been doing an hour and a half or thereabouts each and every single week. We understand that not everybody can be here for an hour and a half live. We appreciate all the folks who do and the ones who tune in each and every single week and give us well over an hour of their time and hang out with us in the comments and, really become full-fledged participants in the show. But we understand that not everybody can do that. People are traveling home from work, as Stephanie is usually. Sometimes she gets lost in the tunnel and she's got to cut out and come back and things like that. So don't fear if you are watching some of the show and you have to leave. We appreciate it if you're here for the whole time, but if you can't do it, the show will live forever on our YouTube channel, which is appropriately called Til Mets Do Us Part. And that's why subscribing and turning notifications on is the best way for people to know, one, when we're going live, and two, when episodes are available for you to watch, rewatch, miss whatever, or catch up on whatever you missed, whether you had to leave early or you came in late. You can do all of that once we're done with the live stream. And of course, about an hour or so, sometimes the next morning, it all depends. But either way, this show is also available as an audio podcast wherever it is you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google, all of those places and more. So you can take us with you. The only difference is you won't be able to interact with the show in real time, of course, because you'll be watching it after the fact or listening to it after the fact. And you won't be able to see our smiling faces. But wherever it is you choose to listen or watch, we appreciate all of you. And Stephanie's saying the good old MTA. But Ibby, I kind of teased it. The all the time viewers know this, but the Edwin Diaz baseball. It's signed by Edwin Diaz. We want to give it away.
You know what? Hold on. I'm starting to think that people don't believe me. I'm going to grab it real quick.
You're going to go get the... Oh, my God. He's taking off the headphones, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, this is serious. He's going to get the Edwin Diaz baseball. And I know Ibby is being a little tongue-in-cheek when he does this. I know you're being a little tongue-in-cheek, Ibby, when you do this, because obviously we've had giveaways before. We always make good on our giveaways. We give away good stuff. Also, you tweeted out a picture of it, so it's very real. But there it is. In real time, if you could do me a favor and go get a copy of today's newspaper and hold it's like a proof of life. We have an Edwin Diaz autographed baseball to give away to one lucky subscriber. But the catch is we have to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. And Ibby, we've made some traction, but it's very slow going.
It's slow. It's very slow.
Like 813, 814, somewhere in that range. Yeah, we are not giving that one away until we reach 1,000. This is from Ibby's personal collection. This is not something we acquired to give out. I do
have it, Corey. I'll go over there and grab it if I have to. I do have to.
Oh, shit. Corey said, where is the certificate of authenticity? And Ibby's like, I got it. I got the receipts. We're not giving it away until we get to 1,000 subscribers.
Right.
If that takes a week, great. If it takes till next year, well, guess what? We might even do another giveaway before we give away the Edwin Diaz baseball.
I might do that.
We're waiting. We're holding out till 1,000. Before we get back into the conversation, Ibby, let's get a quick word in for our friends over at Independent Safes.
Independent Safes, as always, are protecting homes and businesses with secure residential and commercial safes Fireproof peace of mind in every corner. Visit independentsafes.com today for security that stands strong. And again, you spend $99. They take care of you with the free shipping. Of course, everything is $99 or more. So you're going to be spending some money if you need a safe, but if you want that protection for something in your home, for something in your business, whatever it may be, they got all of it. Tell them that Til Mets sent you. They'll hook you up. They'll take care of you. And usually I want to put somebody in an independent safe, but I can't think of anyone at the moment that I want to. So for now, everyone's safe, no pun, about being placed in one and tossed into the river. But yeah, independentsafes.com. Check them out. They got good stuff. Tell them Til Mets sent you.
I mean, look, it's true. You're buying a safe in the year 2024. It's not a pair of socks in 1971. They're going to be $99 and above. This is just how life works. But the free shipping is a big deal, Ibby, because sure, it's going to cost you some money, but also safes, I don't know if people know this, they're heavy. And the heavier things are, the more expensive they are to ship. So I think it's a good look from Independent Safes for giving people, basically they're like, hey, buy a safe and we're going to ship it to you for free. We'll cover the shipping. We'll eat the cost. I think that's a great deal if you need a safe. They are the folks to check out. If you need a safe or if you need a panic room. Somebody asked about that way back in the day, and they said
they do.
Ibby called and checked, and they were like, well,
they're $25,000. So if you got that hanging around and you want one, there you go. You want to start a GoFundMe page, whatever it may be.
I might turn my entire apartment into a panic room. Just cover the whole.
You would think of all the Mets fans in the world that at least one of them has to have a panic room because, God forbid something does happen.
Listen, there is one person 100% that is technically a Mets fan that has a panic room, and it's Steve Cohen.
Yes, it's true. That's the
if
one
you're worth
guy.
$17 billion,
you got to have
your ass got a panic room. Okay. There is a person who I think has the, how should I put this? The skittishness of a small cat that should have a panic room, but probably doesn't make enough money. And that is that little Weasley guy that blocks everybody that I don't want to say his name.
No names.
He was on the Mets post-game show, pregame and postgame today. And it's not Gary Apple. It's the other one.
That's the way to put it out there.
I didn't want to say his name. Ibby's trying to get me to say less people's names. Armand's saying, I live in a room with no windows. Does that count as a panic room? Kinda. Real quick, before we get back into the conversation, of course, we have to talk about our friends over at Manscaped as well. Check out the website. It's called manscaped.com. You get 20% off and free shipping with the code TMDUP. That stands for Til Mets Do Us Part. So the promo code TMDUP will get you 20% off and free shipping site-wide. Doesn't matter what you order. You order one thing, you order 15 things, you get 20% off the order. You get free shipping on the order across the entire site. They have great bundles. You order a bundle, guess what? 20% off and free shipping. So especially if, and we get this a lot since we started our great relationship with Manscaped, people say things like, I don't think I'm a Manscaped kind of guy. I don't think it's for me. If you guys want to do it, you can do it. But if you're not sure if it's for you, check out the website. They have more things than you would imagine. And why not try something out for 20% cheaper than it would be, plus the free shipping. That is all I have to say about that. Oh, sorry. This has been updated here, Ibby. Rosie saying, excuse you, John. Uncle Stevie is worth $21 billion. His net worth continues to climb, as it does for all billionaires. And Ibby's Wi-Fi has had enough. You're back. Oh, you're back.
I'm back. Okay.
You were frozen for a minute. Rosie set me up and said Uncle Stevie's worth $21 billion. So his net worth
just keeps climbing.
And I wasn't going to say the name, but Douglas said it. It's Mandy Artino.
Mandy Artino. I know that.
beat reporter for the Mets that blocks everybody that was on the pre and post game that has the skittishness of a tiny cat. He should have a panic room. Okay, Ibby, back to the conversation with the Mets.
Yes.
Right now, as of this moment, 3:56 in the PM here on the West Coast. The Arizona Diamondbacks have already played. They won 14-4 over the Rangers. We've got the Braves just now underway as of, I think, a couple minutes ago, about 9 minutes ago or so. The Phillies and the Rays are underway as of a couple minutes ago, and the Padres are at the Mariners, so that'll be later on tonight here on the West Coast. Up to the second, the Mets currently own the third wild card because they have a half a game advantage on the Atlanta Braves, who are playing now. Obviously, if the Braves win, they will tie them. If they don't, they will fall a full game back. And the Mets are only a game and a half behind the Arizona Diamondbacks and 2 games back of the San Diego Padres. I would say with 16 games left to play, I would have signed for that going back to April and May.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it was the guys over at We Gotta Believe. And they put out these funny memes talking about I think it was the one from Transformers where Shia LaBeouf is like screaming at his friends like, you wanted this, you're in it, okay, you want to go home now, you can't go home now, like this is it. Like and that's what I was kind of hinting at in our description too, where it's like 16 games left, like you are in the thick of things. Everything matters. Every time you sit on your couch, you go to the stadium, whatever it may be, you are in the thick of it. Any one of us would have signed up for this. We all were put off. Many were put off at the beginning of the year where it was said to you that, we're going to compete. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And everyone's like, no, you're not. This is a punt year. You stink. You signed nobody. These guys are retreads. They're not good and blah, 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 blah. Yet here we are, 2 weeks left, and we are very much in the hunt. And you have all of your fears, Mets fans, all of your fears are staring at you in the face because it's you, at the moment at least, it's you or it's the Atlanta Braves. The biggest bugaboo from your fandom, wherever it started, is the Atlanta Braves. And we think back to 2022. We think back on how things could have been different. We think back if they didn't play out of their minds, as John has eloquently put so many times, that they were playing baseball at a 700-plus level, that it took for them to topple the Mets the way that they did. The Mets weren't that bad towards the end. They were bad, but they weren't that bad. But the Braves had to play out of their minds to get to where they wanted to go. Braves are down this year. We know that. We can be honest about that. A lot of injuries, okay, lost some guys. But I said, it might have been 3 weeks ago now, I said that this team should pass the Atlanta Braves. Why? Because they lost one of the better hitters in baseball. He's not having that great of a year, but, Austin Riley is still a big bat in that lineup. Matt Olson's turned it on, but he had a rough season to this point. No Ronald Acuna, no Ozzie Albies. Okay, a lot of ups and downs. Guys not performing the way that they thought they would. Sean Murphy's down. Okay, Travis Darno, like different guys, what have you. But everything is right in front of you. And I truly believe that this team will do enough over the next 10 against Philly and the Nats. Going into that Tuesday game after the Monday break, it's all going to come down to that series against Atlanta. That's going to be it. I'm telling you, we're going into the house of horrors that everyone hates, going down to Atlanta. This team has a chance to get some payback. And I think that they're ready for it. This team is built different than they're built different than 2022 was. So I think that they can handle the heat. I think they're ready for it. We got to get there first. These next 10 games are still very important. Very important. But I think it is going to come down to that 3-game stretch down in Atlanta.
I think there's a couple of really great comments coming in. This one from Mark Beretta saying the most important thing with the Mets this year is they are a team, in all caps, emphasis on team. Something special is happening because they are together as one. I think that's fair. I think there's times, over a long season where a baseball team doesn't necessarily dislike each other, but they certainly don't gel. And this Mets team is And that's why win, lose, or draw, it makes them easier to root for too. It's fun. You feel like you're a part of it. You see them having fun. I think a lot of that plays into it. Brad saying this team has been thrilling, frustrating, joyful experience all wrapped into one. And I love this team minus a few players. We all have our own players that we dislike on teams every year, so I don't take any issue with that. Certainly, Rosie saying Mets schedule is brutal. They've got the Phillies, the Brewers, the Braves. I'm not going to survive the Atlanta series. And Ibby, with that, that's why I want to say this next bit, kind of piggybacking off that comment and what you just said, which is I have long been preaching that the season does not come down to the Braves series because the Mets have done, to their credit, a good enough job to put them in a position where they really just need to win more than they lose. This is not the Mets and the Braves battling for a division, and whoever doesn't make it, the division's weak, they're not going to make the wild card, and that's it. That person's out of the playoffs. Then it comes down to the Mets and the Braves. The Mets are a game and a half behind Arizona. They're 2 games behind San Diego. Right now, they're 7.5 behind the Philadelphia Phillies with 7 games left to play with them. The Mets, the Braves, the Phillies, the Padres, the Diamondbacks, a combination of those teams are going to make the playoffs. You just want the Mets to be in that combination. The way the season started, as bad as May was, I don't care if the Mets are the 3rd wild card or the Mets win the division. Would I like the Mets to win the division? Absolutely.
Sure.
The story would be fantastic. It's theoretically an easier road to the playoffs. All of that stuff is true. But from where they started from the bottom, now they here, I don't care which way the Mets make the playoffs. I just want the Mets to get in. And because they have the tiebreaker with Arizona, because they have the tiebreaker with San Diego, because they still have 7 games left with the Phillies trailing them currently by 7.5, all the roads are open. However, it would certainly be a lot easier if you could go into Atlanta and at least take 2 out of 3, because taking 2 out of 3 would then give you the tiebreaker over the Braves as well. And it is going to make things a lot easier. So is it, oh my God, the Braves beat you and you're done? No. Is it, oh my God, the Braves beat you and things don't look as good? Certainly. But if you go in there, you don't even have to sweep. Right now, the season series is 5 apiece, Mets and Braves. Take 2 out of 3, get the tiebreaker, and then you've got the tiebreaker over the 3 teams that are competing the hottest and heaviest with you right now. Yeah. And remember, there are no more 1-game playoffs for tying and having the same record at the end of the year. It's like football. They go to head-up records, and then they go to other things to disseminate and break ties. So the tiebreaker is super important. I think the Mets just need, if nothing else, Ibby, the Mets need to get that tiebreaker from the Braves so that they own it. Because also, technically, they are still very much alive for getting the tiebreaker over the Phillies. Now, look, that would be an unbelievable stretch of baseball if the Mets can come out of those series with tiebreakers over everybody. But that should kind of be the goal, shouldn't it? You know, come out of it and then and own the tiebreakers. Win more than you lose, beat the teams on your schedule, and own the tiebreakers. And then I don't know where the Mets will finish, but they'll be in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a simple explanation, but it is mathematically it's that simple. It's not easy to do it on the field, but on paper it's that easy.
100%. And just anything that you can do to better your odds. And like you're saying, take the 2 of 3, take the tiebreaker, having the tiebreakers over the teams that you are in direct competition with. So if things do come down to the wire and you need them, you cover all of your bases. That's strategy for anything that you want to achieve. So you want to have those things. So yes, those are big things. I look at it as, our season coming down to it in the sense of what I always talk about. And that is finding a way to create space. And if these teams are neck and neck, and if you handle business and you beat them 2 out of 3, or you sweep them or anything along those lines, you're able to, let's assume things carry over and they're still neck and neck. You're able to gain 2 games. You're able to gain 3 games or whatever it may be with limited games left, because after I think there's only 3 games left. I think it's just a Brewer series and for them as well, whatever 3 games that they have. So anything you can, like I always say, to find that pocket within a schedule to gain some ground, to give yourself some space that allows for a hiccup. Maybe we're going to be able to afford many hiccups down the road here with 16 to go, but anything you can do to create that said space is going to be very important. And I think by the time we hit that 3-game stretch in Atlanta, I think finding that space within those 3 games is going to be very important.
2 really good comments here. Mr. Nobody getting like an MLB Royal Rumble right now.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it has come down to.
Yeah.
And there's another good observation from Charlie. I did know this and I forgot about it, but this is really good. And the Diamondbacks and the Padres play each other in the final series of the year.
Okay. Yeah.
So with
Definitely
them
helps.
playing each other and you owning the tiebreaker over them, obviously that bodes well because someone is gonna lose.
Yeah, someone's got to lose.
Every day,
Yeah.
one of those teams has to lose. Now, obviously, you got to get to that final series where that math still maths, and the Mets have, a 10-game stretch, over 10 games, 13-game stretch before that. That's going to be difficult, but you get to that, and then all of a sudden, again, things start to open up for you in a really big way. And Ibby, this is another comment before from Mr. Nobody, which I think is key. I really believe in this in sports, and I especially believe in this in baseball. The last couple of weeks will be like our own playoffs. I don't like having 14 wins in the NFL and resting your guys on the final game. You gotta play. And I think there is something to be said about playing hard through the season, getting into the playoffs. The Mets have basically been trying to win playoff games since June. They dug themselves such a big hole, being 11 games under 500. It's been a long stretch of you got to win. You got to win. You got to win. Just keep winning. Just win. Just win. Backs against the wall, win. So now it really is like this next 16 games. It's like the playoffs before the playoffs. And I would rather have it be that way.
I agree with what you're saying. And I think back to when you're saying about like the NFL, I think back to obviously that classic, Giants and Pats game where the Giants played them tough at the end. And that, how that ends up, catapulting them. And this Mets team, not comparing or anything like that, but it's like, I feel for a while now, especially when, the vibe at the stadium, when I was there on a Wednesday, when they're facing Oakland and there was like 30,000 people there on a Wednesday, like this place has been hot. This place, the Mets fan has been dying forever for consistency. They've been dying forever for wanting important baseball. And I fully believe that when the Mets are playing fantastic baseball, it lights the city on fire in a good way. And it just lights that spirit underneath. And I think that them fighting for as long as they have bodes well for them. Does it run the risk of burnout and not having enough towards the end? Sure, there's a little bit of chance that could happen, but I think that this team is built different than like we talked about last week with 2022, how they got burnt out and how their trajectory was up, and then it started going down at the worst time. Whereas this team started off rocky, went low, and it's been rising ever since. It's been going up as opposed to showing that overall fatigue. We need, I know Darren in the comments just said that there's going to be some tough pitching when you face Philly and when you face Atlanta. I agree. A lot of good pitchers in there. Zach Wheeler, Chris Sale. I know Ronaldo Lopez is hurt for the Braves. I don't know if he'll be back, but I know he's hurt.
Looks like the Mets will miss Wheeler to this series. They will probably catch him next series, depending on how this coming series, the Mets will not get Wheeler.
Okay, well, do they get Nola? Because Nola's been a pain in the ass to them too.
Yes, I believe Nola pitches the first game of the series, if I'm not mistaken.
If you get Christopher Sanchez, he's a mixed bag sometimes, but he has a lot of good stuff. Same thing with Ranger Suarez. Tough lefties, always been an issue for the Mets. So the offense has got to be there. But I'm with you. I agree. You play tough games like this, it build you for what is to come if you can make it into October. That's where we want to get. Next 16 games are going to shape this team, and we'll see what ends up happening.
Yeah, and it's funny. I guess I kind of started it, but we've been doing this multi-sport analogy like all show. NFL and MLB and stuff. And I'll get another sport in the mix because you're right about the fatigue. Sometimes you see it in an NBA game. A team will get down like 20 points early, and then in the fourth quarter, they'll close the gap and they'll get it to like within 2. And then all of a sudden they wind up losing by 20 again because it was like the effort that it took to just get to within 2 was it. They're spent. They shot their shot and they ran out of steam. That is possible to happen in a long baseball season down the stretch. You just keep trying to get close, keep trying to get close, keep trying to get close. But why I think part of the thing that's going to keep the Mets away from that, Ibby, is that they got close and got back into a playoff position like earlier. They're not fighting. Now, I know they're fighting every day to maintain that or increase their lead over the Braves, but the Mets are not in the position that like some of the teams in the AL Central are in, trying to catch the Twins, where it's like there's 16 games left and they're like 3 games back of the wild card because the Twins have been so bad. So like the Tigers are trying to catch them and the Red Sox are trying to catch them for the wild card. Like that's a lot of ground to make up in a short amount of time. The Cubs and the Giants are, they're 3-4 games out. Things could happen. To me, that's the more fitting analogy to the NBA team that gets it really close and then lets the game slip away in the fourth quarter. The Mets have been on the precipice of a playoff spot for like the last month almost. You know what I mean? Like it's been a good amount of time now. So I think they've already done their catch up and now they're just trying to, I don't want to say tread water because that's an unfair way to put it because they're not that good. They're trying to close. Yeah, they're trying to close the deal. Yeah. So I do think I don't think because the fatigue is like we're running, we're trying to catch, we're trying to catch you, we're trying to catch you, we're trying to catch you. The Mets caught up, and now you can get your second win sometimes where you're like, we've caught up. We just have to seal the deal now, and it's a different mentality, and I hope that mentality gives them. I hope it gives them a second wind, and I think it will. And here's another good one from Rosie. The Braves have to play the Dodgers in the final 16 games, which is another important one.
Big one.
And the Dodgers are trying to get the best record in baseball, the best record in the National League. I think the Dodgers right now, or as of yesterday, were tied with the Phillies for the best record in the National League and or baseball. So, they've got things to play for too. And I think that also matters ultimately. And look, the Dodgers aren't going to roll over for anybody, especially the Braves.
No, they won't, especially when they're trying to establish something, and they want to make sure that they're not playing soft going into an October where a lot of people feel that oftentimes the Dodgers, they show out so well during the regular season, but when it's go time, they don't show up and they lose. So I'm sure that they want to make sure that they play sharp and stay sharp going into October. And you just brought up what I was going to bring up, talking about how Armand saying how on Friday we got Quintana against Nola. Got to get the bats going in that one. Saturday you got Sevy versus to be determined, and Sunday night we got TBS, the channel, versus TBD. So we'll see what happens on Sunday night.
I like TBS's stuff in that game. So I think I'll give the edge to the Mets there. TBS, they used to have Monday Nitro. They had a lot of repeats.
Oh, they got Dynamite now. They got TBS with AEW. They got Dynamite. They got the Big Bang Theory. They have some. They got some heavy hitters that they can throw out there.
They got some. So I'm gonna go. I would give the Mets the slight advantage. TBD is always good, but based on this, if it stays the same, maybe. Bold strategy from the Phillies throwing TBD in back-to-back games. You don't see that anymore. I haven't seen a starting pitcher throw back-to-back days since like 1911, something like that. Armand Nitro was on TNT. Oh, that's right.
Thunder was on
Thursday
TBS.
Night Thunder.
Thunder was on TBS.
Remember that show? I think it was Thunder in Paradise.
Yes, Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hulk
My
Hogan's a
friend
piece of shit,
TJ,
but-
TJ bought me as a gag gift one year. He bought me a 3 DVD set of Thunder in Paradise. Yeah, he did buy me that.
They had enough seasons to have 3 DVDs.
3 seasons. They had 3 seasons. Yeah.
3 seasons of
3
Thunder in
seasons.
Paradise. Oh my
Yeah.
God! Listen, if you're here watching live right now, there's almost 400 of you. One, I'm sorry. Two, go watch Thunder in Paradise. Go watch the pilot episode. It's not good. Hulk Hogan's a piece of shit. Then, now, and forever. But it's kind of like it's. I mean, how would you describe Thunder in Paradise? It's like Baywatch with more guns.
Baywatch with more guns. Very clear blue water. He's always ripping around in his black his black like speedboat. Like I just that's kind of
there's
what
a lot of jet ski riding.
A lot of jet ski ride. Yeah.
If I remember correctly, the opening line of the theme song was "Thunder in Paradise." Girls look pretty, girls look nice. I believe was something.
A large man owns a boat.
Yeah, you got it. Yeah. Hey, real quick, Hulk Hogan, give me your elevator pitch for Thunder in Paradise.
Large
A large man
owns
a boat. Yeah. Armand saying Hogan on Thunder in Paradise greater than Hogan in ring work. Greater than Hogan as a person. Any character he's ever played, Mr. Mom or whatever the hell. Ibby froze at the worst time. Because one, we're getting ready to wrap up the show. Two, we're talking about Thunder in Paradise. Because sometimes you have to take the edge off of the Mets talk. Because the Mets talk can be tough. It can be. No, you're back.
I'm back.
I was like, you froze at the worst time because we're talking about Thunder in Paradise. Sometimes you have to take the edge off the Mets talk.
Oh, but I always love mixing in crazy stuff. Like, I didn't think that for 1 second we were going to mention Thunder in Paradise today.
You never know what you're going to get with me, buddy. I got weird shit going on up here all the time, and sometimes I haven't thought about Thunder in Paradise in forever, but then I decided, Armand gets a typo, TBS. I incorrectly say that Monday Nitro was on TBS when it was on TNT. You say Thursday Night Thunder in Paradise. Hulk Hogan was on both of them. I'm free associating on this bitch.
I do have my box of wrestling DVDs. I still have them. They're in my garage, easily accessible. I'm going to take a look at there at some point today, see if I still have that Thunder in Paradise. And if I do, I'll make sure to show it in front of everyone for proof that I do have it. But I think I do. So if I do, you guys will see it next week. But
that's right.
Hilarious nonetheless.
If Ibby has Thunder in Paradise, we will upload the
we'll do a watch along
into StreamYard, and we will do a Thunder in Paradise watch along. I don't know if YouTube will take that down. They probably will because it's
they probably would.
Material.
They probably would.
We have to figure out a way over the off season to have a Thunder in Paradise watch along.
I'll do that.
Would be insane. I don't remember anything about. The only thing I remember about the show is the beach, Hulk Hogan, the guns, the speedboat, the jet skis, and Macho Man Randy Savage was a guest one time. If you're like, wow, John, that's a lot of stuff. It's really not. It's like 4 bits of information. Like, it's not like I remember the plot points. It's like, I remember there was a speedboat in a beach show. Like, all right, well, yeah, that seems likely. Yes. Happy birthday, Armand, who turned 39 yesterday while he was in the chat for my other show, The Goddamn Jets. Which is live every Tuesday, talking about the Jets. And Charlie turning 72 tomorrow. So happy birthday to Charlie.
Happy birthday, Charlie. Happy birthday, man. Hopefully you're doing better, too. Hopefully all's well on your end.
Absolutely. Ibby, if you have Thunder in Paradise, that should be the giveaway when this channel hits 830 subs. Honestly,
we might lose subs if I make that as a giveaway.
Here's what we're going to do. I just decided. If we don't reach 1,000 subscribers by a certain time, the Edwin Diaz giveaway is going to go away, and one unlucky subscriber is going to receive what I can only imagine is a gently used box set of Thunder in Paradise instead.
Oh my God.
That would be hilarious. You just like, You open the box, you're like, oh my God, this is the thing from Til Mets Do Us Part. And then you open it up and it's a used box set of Thunder in Paradise seasons 1 through 3 on DVD.
Oh my God.
I love it. Okay. Ibby, it was fun to mix it up with Thunder in Paradise.
Absolutely.
We can get out of here in a second, but we do need to bring this up in all seriousness. This came in way earlier. You started. Carlos Ortiz, RIP, Ed Kranepool.
Yes.
Mets legend, truly through and through and through and through, drafted as a 16-year-old with the Mets, right? Something like that, something crazy. Came up at 19, played his entire career with the Mets, owned a bunch of Mets offensive records until David Wright and Darryl Strawberry came along, but still has the most hits in Citi Field, in Shea Stadium, and that'll never go away because Shea Stadium ain't here no more. I met Ed Kranepool a couple of years ago at that Mets event that I did. I tweeted out the picture. Short, he wasn't around us for too terribly long, maybe about 15, 20 minutes, but so gracious, so nice, as kind as advertised, as warm and friendly as advertised, as funny and affable as, you would expect. And, it's listen, I think he was 80, I believe 80 right on the nose. People like Ed Kranepool he had a great life, remarkable life, living his dream and playing baseball professionally and doing it at a very high level. And, so but it's always sad when you lose somebody, no matter the age. So, I think all Mets fans kind of felt that impact, even though like you or I mean, it's before our time. I never saw Ed Kranepool play. Ed Kranepool looked largely the same when I met him a couple of years ago that he did like when I first heard of Ed Kranepool. You know what I mean? Not obviously, not exactly, but like to me, like he was always an older guy. He was retired before I even like had a concept of baseball, basically. So, I never knew him as a guy who played baseball, but truly, and this is the important part here. Charlie saying was my first favorite Met. And that's the thing for an entire generation of people. Ed Kranepool is the Met, period.
Yes.
And, you have to acknowledge that. Terrible, to see his passing.
Absolutely. And you can see Steph here coming in also saying how he supported the autism fundraisers that I worked on. Great Met, great person. I've heard nothing but good things about him. People very much wax poetic about his life and the person that he was. And, to John's point before saying, I've never seen him play. But I've heard plenty of stories from people, and I love hearing stories because I love talking baseball and hearing the old stories of baseball, whether it's from somebody like, my stepfather who is 69 years old, so he's close in age to you, Charlie, and hearing stories from you and mentioning things and just knowing that these guys at one point were larger than life and they meant a lot to people. So hearing that he was your first favorite Met, that just goes to show, that he had a draw on a lot of people. And it's very cool that he played an entire career from the age of 17 to 34, all while wearing the New York Met uniform. It's rare to see nowadays. We might be able to get that with Brandon Nimmo, someone who's played at a very young age and been there their entire career. We'll see what happens there, but something very rare, but very cool. And like I said, never got a chance to meet Ed. Never got a chance to have a conversation with him. Never got a chance to see him play. But I've heard a lot of great things, and it seems as though he lived an incredible life. And just want to say, rest in peace, and thoughts and prayers and all the love to the ones that did get to know him and actually did get a chance to meet him. Yeah,
it's funny when you say, you just reference like, your family and stuff like that. And, you like the way your stepfather talks about him. It also reminds me like, my grandfather who, we lost years and years ago, but he would do the same thing where it would be like, talking about this guy that he watched play, and my grandfather was in his 80s when he passed and he, and that was in 2007. This is a long time ago now. So he went back even further in terms of seeing, different ball players play even earlier. But yeah, it's something he'd talk about all the time. Oh, this guy, this guy who's in the booth right now, or this guy who they're interviewing, you should have seen him play, that kind of thing. And, I think the best part about the memory of going and doing this event with the Mets a few years ago, So it's something that we did that, we're all really proud of. And for a myriad of reasons that is just the business stuff, it never saw the light of day. It never actually came out. But it was myself and Joe Perino, who's been on the show a million times, and Chris Frangiola, who's been on the show a million times. And Joe is a couple years older than me. I'm 37, about to be 38. Joe is just over 40. And Chris is a little bit older than both of us. And Chris, growing up on Long Island, when he was a kid, Ed Kranepool was Mr. Met. He was the guy. And, Chris has had a very successful career. The stuff that he's done lately, stand up and, cover to cover podcast and Juicy Scoop podcast with Heather McDonald. But of course, Chris's big break in Hollywood after grinding it out and moving to LA from Ronkonkoma at, I think, 18 or 19, right out of high school. His big break came much later when he was on Chelsea Lately with Chelsea Handler. And that was the biggest deal. But, that was a massive show when it was on, if you guys ever watched it. And so, Chris had a huge amount of success as a panelist and the head writer for that show. And so this is a guy who, has had this unbelievable, successful career. And the reason why I bring that up is not just to list you off Chris Frangiola's resume, but when we didn't know Ed Kranepool was going to be there, we didn't know he was going to be part of this event. And Chris had brought his brother, who still lives in Long Island, and his nephew to the event to be there because we were doing a lot of behind the scenes stuff with the Mets. And he was like, hey, is it cool if they come? They're both big fans. And they're like, absolutely. And so Chris and his brother, Ed Kranepool, was their favorite player. And when they said, hey, we're going to go to the Mets Museum and we're going to meet and interact with Ed Kranepool, Chris looked like an 8-year-old boy. And he was just like shit eating great. He's like, Ed Kranepool's here? Yeah. What? Ed Kranepool's like, this is a guy who's friends with celebrities. This is a guy who's been on television for 10 years. This is a guy who's had unbelievable success. And it's just like he was transported back immediately in a way that was just, Ed Kranepool? What? Yeah. Oh my God, wait, he's here. And then he told his brother, and his brother's like, are you kidding me? And, he runs over to him. And like his brother also, who wasn't a part of the event, he's not in show business and stuff. And his brother got a chance to meet Ed. And his brother was like, man, listen, me and Chris growing up, we the first Met we ever watched, the 69 World Series, we were kids. And that's what baseball's about. You know what I mean? Yeah. Thank you guys for listening to my long-winded story, but it was really, really cool to see Chris meet his literal childhood hero. And it doesn't matter what your life turns into. It doesn't matter how much success or whatever you get, just a truly unbelievable moment. So that's really what baseball's supposed to be all about. That's what sports is supposed to be all about. So, RIP. And of course, yes, we lost 4 Mets of the 69 Mets this year. Buddy Harrelson, Jerry Grody. It's an unfortunate typo there, probably autocorrect. Ed Kranepool and Jim McAndrew. So, and the Mets have said because he passed so late in the season that they're going to wait till next year to honor him with a patch. Proper. I agree. I agree. This is not the point of this, but they also, I know Nike and Fanatics is supposed to change those jerseys, but the patches look horrendous on those jerseys.
Oh, very bad. Very bad.
It looks like an app. And it's not about the look. It's not about the fashion aspect of it, the style aspect. They look like an afterthought. And
they do.
Wearing
just thrown on. Yeah.
Yes. And wearing the numbers of fallen former players and people important to the organization, it's not an afterthought. That's a very important thing. Going back to what we were talking about with, paying proper tribute on September 11th and, Jake Plummer trying to pay tribute to somebody who he considered a friend who he lost in Pat Tillman. Those things matter so much. And Nike and Fanatics should be embarrassed by that because they need to fix that.
I agree 100%. It does feel it feels as though it's there, but it's like doing your homework at the last second. You can tell the person who did their homework on time and, really thought it through or did a project, and the other person who hands it looks very thrown together last second, what have you. That's the way it looks. And I think it should look a lot more seamless. It should look a lot more a part of the jersey. Just like just like when the Mets, knew that it was improper to have that New York Presbyterian patch, that first one that was big, ugly, disgusting. They saw the outlash, they heard the outcry on everything, and they fixed it. And now it's a lot sleeker. It looks a lot better. It looks like it belongs. You should do the same thing when it comes to honoring players, people, numbers, names, whatever it may be. It should look like it belongs on the jersey, not as if it's thrown on saying, here, this is to appease you.
Yeah. Look, we're at an hour and a half. We should get out of here. It's already a half hour later because we started later. Any final thoughts? Anything we didn't get to that you want to hit before we leave here today? Shout out to all the 365 people, one for every day of the year, who have joined us right now to this point at Til Mets Do Us Part live on YouTube and on Twitter.
I have nothing more that I want to say that I haven't said during the show. Like I said, I'll keep on reiterating it. 16 games left. Strap in. We'll be here with you as much as we can. It's going to be wild. It's going to be bumpy. You're going to have some crazy ups. You might have a couple of downs as well. They're not going to win every game, even though we want them to. And hell, maybe they will, but maybe they won't. But either way, get ready, because this is a hell of a thing if they won the last 16. Would be a hell of a thing. But either way, enjoy scoreboard watching, enjoy the games themselves. If you head out to the stadium, have a blast. I'm thinking that I might be going. My birthday is the 21st of September. They are home. They are against the Phils. I'm thinking about going. I'm monitoring that. I'll let you guys know if I do end up going and choosing to do so. But that is a potential on my radar. But have fun with it. Like I said, you're on your couch, pour yourself a drink or whatever it is that you like. Enjoy it, because this is what we've always wanted as Mets fans and what we deserve, especially after the season that we got stuck watching last year. This is the makeup for that. So let's enjoy this run, have some fun with it overall. Let's go Mets. Let's win. Let's try to get our asses into the playoffs. Let's go.
And you know what? I am hoping that I get to go to a game on my birthday, which would mean a deep run in the playoffs for the Mets, because my birthday is October 15th. So that's like 2 weeks into the playoffs. So I hope I have to make a difficult decision on whether or not I want to fly to New York and go to a game, because that would be a great, great sign. Speaking of great signs, Armand, the Nats lead the Braves 2-0 after 3 with Fried at 50 plus pitches. Do your worst, Nationals. The only thing I will add, thank you to everybody, Charlie and Stephanie and Darren and everybody who's saying, great show, Mr. Nobody. I appreciate all you guys we do. Appreciate each and every single one of you. The only thing I'll add to you, Ibby, you said you broke it all down, but I will just say, in the immortal words of Doctor Strange, we are in the end game now. Buckle up.
Great line.
We will see you guys next week with more Til Mets Do Us Part. I'm John. That's Ibby. Peace.